guys, welcome back to episode 6 of Parables in Pastiche. Today we have our second guest, JP, a very close friend of mine, and we're going to be capping off our 3-part series on irony poisoning and pastiche, which has been a very interesting topic, a very detailed topic that needs to be explained correctly. So today we're going to hit that home. We're going to outline it and make sure you guys really understand that definition. And we're going to look at some examples of it, and we're even going to let you find out if you yourself have irony poisoning. So I'm going to turn it over to our guest, JP. You can go ahead and introduce yourself and let people know who you are. Your mic's muted. You have to unmic it or unmute it. There you go.
What's up, guys? I'm JP. I'm going to be following along with these guys today, talking about irony poisoning and just how desensitized that we can be just from scrolling and just everything that's going on right now with the technology and stuff like that. So it should be great.
I think Urban might be having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, I saw that. So you guys go ahead and introduce yourself, the co-hosts here.
Sure. No, yeah, I'll just take it off just because Urban might. Oh, there he's back. Okay, cool.
I'm back.
Yeah, so he just got done introducing himself. If you want to just continue.
Okay, so of course I'm with Prophet and Devin, our co-host, and really this whole idea of irony poisoning and pastiche. Pastiche is this idea that it seems like everything is a real life South Park episode now. You know, you look at the headlines in the news, you look at the actual events that are going on in the world, and I feel like it is the plot line of a South Park episode. And as I've noticed, South Park has really, they used to put out tons of episodes each year, and it's like there's no more jokes to be told because it's all real. So That's what irony poisoning and pastiche is. It's the fact that younger people are able to cope with actual murder within 30 minutes just by making memes out of it. So that's irony poisoning. So why don't you just tell us your thoughts on it, and have you seen that in your experiences in life?
Yeah, I've seen stuff like that. Mostly, just memes or making fun of serious stuff that's been going on or happening in the world. And a lot of these things are life changing for people. We're gonna see. You're gonna show some examples up on screen of the memes that we're talking about, the type of irony poisoning memes that we're speaking about.
Yeah, we've got some examples to show you today, and I feel like most people will have seen these. Let's see, Devin, you usually go first traditionally, so just go ahead and give us your 2 cents on it. Let us know what you think, and then we'll go to Prophet.
Yeah. I think a big thing to preface when we're talking about irony poisoning is specifically the effect it's having on the youth, right? I think that short form content and doom scrolling and brain rot has gotten to older parts of the population. I would say millennials and up, because short form content is very universal in its addictive properties with people. It's not so much that young people's brains are akin to short form content. It's more so that there's the process that we talked about in the last episode of deterritorialization happening, that the very thing that would define something as funny in the past is changing in such a radical way that it's showing a reformatting in real time of the subconscious, of what people laugh at. And the reason why I say what people laugh at is association with the subconscious is, let me ask everybody, can you force a laugh? No.
Not a genuine one.
No, not a genuine
Right.
one. You cannot force an actual laugh. So if you can't force an actual laugh, it is mostly a subconscious process. So if you see something that is so wildly absurd and it makes you laugh, and this is when we get into absurdity and the deterritorialization, right? It's young people have had so much stimulation and have had so much content pouring into their brains at such rapid rates that lots of people don't have anything to cling on to. And especially with the death of religion and the death of faith in the government and all these different things, young people, all they have is their content diet through the internet. And if that content diet mostly consists of memes that are literally being made for the purpose of being dumb, okay, then what is it going to do to your brain? You know, it's very matter of fact, right? So that's the big thing, and especially with the arms race of making memes that are more and more escalating of not making sense and retarded, right? That's a big part of a lot of this, right? And it's slowly rotting people's brains.
That's a great point. Go ahead, Prophet. Let's hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that the brain rotting leads to is, I don't think desensitization fully encapsulates it. I think the younger generations, along with the religious crisis, are struggling to find a morality, because when you are laughing about things that are really so extreme and that you have no real experience with, they still get categorized in your mind, and they're still processed in the way that you're processing it, with that irony poisoning, with that laughing it off, with it not letting it sit. And that's not good for our collective psychology at all. I mean, I see it personally in my life where people are becoming less empathetic, or they can very easily hide from their problems. I see it affecting their relationships, and they can easily just kind of joke about it, laugh it off, and, not change anything. And it doesn't really seem like they feel it either. So the psychological effects are extremely deep, and it's very vast as well.
Yeah, I want to carry through that point just for a second, because I think it's fascinating that, like, if anybody has worked a job, okay, there's always the people in the job, and it usually is part of the job culture where people will almost be like, it's almost a joke that you got no sleep that night,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
like layering it in that irony, layering it in that comedy, it really does help people cope with the fact that they might have a terrible sleep schedule, that they might just be scrolling and looking at content for hours on end a day with really nothing else, all those things. It's just their coping mechanisms at the end of the day, because our society and our economy and all these different things are very out of whack and skewed.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I'll make this comparison. One thing I've always said is that, if you're having a really bad day and you're in a bad mood, just smoke some weed and you always be in a good mood. But memes almost do the same thing. It's like, if I am having a really bad day, or if I'm in a bad mood, there is an absolute truth to the fact that you just scroll through some of your favorite style of memes for a while. Usually you'll have a couple good genuine laughs, which put a genuine smile on your face. And it helps. And that's why they say laughter is the best medicine, which is true. But it's just like, at one point, okay, that's funny, whatever. But now it's like, things are so absurd. It's like we're laughing really to cope. It's like we're addicted, dependent on this medicine. So JP, do you have anything to add? We actually have a presentation slideshow that we're going to go through with you guys. So go ahead, JP.
Irony poisoning also is like the everyday, like you walk past somebody and just like he said, like they don't like their job, like they didn't get any sleep last night. It's like, oh, how you doing today? Like, oh, I'm living the dream.
Yeah,
I'm living the dream. Or like, oh, I'm just having a great time. Couldn't be better. Just the little sarcastic. You know what I mean? They're not having a good time. You can tell on their face they're not having a good time.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's the same thing. You know what I mean? Stuff like that happens all the time. It's everywhere.
I've worked at a few places where it's like I'm surrounded by blue collar guys and like warehouses.
Yeah.
And that is a theme. That's like the older generation, right? That's like 30 plus kind of that form of irony and of that form of coping. You know what I mean? And that's like a cornerstone of masculinity in a lot of ways, in a weird way.
I'm a little older than you guys. I'm actually pushing 30 myself. I'm about to be 27. You guys seem a little bit younger, so I'm actually in that blue collar class, and like I hear the stuff. I say it too. Like it's almost, you go in the bank and you see somebody in the bank that it's like, how you doing? Oh, I'm just having a great day, or everything that they say.
Living the dream.
Living the dream, man. I'm just living the dream. Another day, another dollar. Just
I say
all
that all
these
the time.
little things that it's like the classic, like you say to people when you see them out. Yeah. It really encompasses that.
It's the small talk stuff that's literally been ingrained in the dialogue of our culture.
So guys, here's what I'm going to have you do. I'm going to have everyone just turn off your webcams. You don't necessarily have to mute your microphone. And we're going to switch to presentation. So if it's your turn to talk, we'll turn our cameras off, and then we'll see the person talking in the bottom left corner. So we'll do it that way. Let's see. Let me turn this this little ticker symbol off. There we go. So this presentation here is designed to hit home this concept of irony, poisoning, and pastiche. The two mascots and symbols, the troll face, which is an internet legend by now, and this guy, his name is Kek. Yeah, that Kek, the frog god of darkness and chaos from ancient Egypt. I don't know how many people were aware that Kek is actually an ancient Egyptian god, but it is. So, first, what is irony? This is a very important concept. If you don't know what irony is, well, then you're not going to understand irony poisoning. So, there's verbal irony, situational irony, dramatic irony. Verbal irony is used when a person wants to express something using speech, which says the opposite of what they mean. So if it was kind of what we were just talking about, if it were a very cold day, a person using verbal irony would jokingly say, "Isn't it warm today?" Just like you're overworked and you're falling asleep. "Oh, I'm living the dream." That's irony. Situational irony, used when a situation does not have the outcome which was expected in the first instance. So if a fire station burns down, it'd be irony because you not expect the fire station to burn down. And dramatic irony is a real life situation. It is applied when something happens and the person within the situation is unaware of the true reality. Now, the first two I was very familiar with, but this third one is an interesting point. So I'm glad that I highlighted that here in this presentation. So the example is if a person were to say, "I'm so glad I wasn't in that car accident," only to be involved in a car accident moments later, that's dramatic irony. So let's see, next page. Irony poisoning, definition and impact. So I'm going to get through this slide and bring up all the definitions, and we'll get your guys' thoughts on these. So the definition and impact of irony poisoning describes a state where the constant use of irony, sarcasm, or humor leads to an inability to communicate or perceive anything sincerely in the context of Pepe the frog and Kek. Irony as a defense. The use of these memes often involves layers of irony where the true intent might be obscured or reversed. This can serve as a defense mechanism against criticism or as a way to engage in political discourse without seeming overly serious, thus contributing to a culture where taking anything seriously is mocked or avoided. That's true. And norm disruption. The Pepe/Kek meme culture thrives on disrupting norms, questioning authority, and challenging the status quo through humor. So a form of protest. This constant exposure to ironic content can make it challenging for individuals to discern genuine information or genuine communication from ironic or satirical ones, leading to a broader societal difficulty in taking issues or statements at face value. So I think I'm going to have Devin go first, then we'll go to JP and Prophet. So Devin, you can turn on your camera and you can have the floor.
Yeah, I think that this is kind of all of these concepts get into what I was talking about before, where these different types of states of irony are permeating all these different forms of culture and the way that people are making these memes. Okay. And especially the norm disruption is basically the deterritorialization concept that I was talking about. It's that your new norm becomes this crazy landscape of really saturated, ironic, deep fried trash memes. And it basically saturates your brain to the point to where it desensitizes you and makes you less likely to feel and interact with the world on an effective basis, and this goes very, very, very deep. It permeates the entire political landscape, and especially with just even the past. I don't want to get too political. That's why I'm kind of hesitating to talk specifically about this. I don't want to talk bad about someone's candidate they like or whatever have you. But at the end of the day, if you look at the discourse that the past few presidential debates have had right in them, you look at the subject matter of what they're talking about, and it's just people take things a lot less seriously nowadays, and people are a lot more likely to be reactionary and see a specific headline and jump to conclusions, and it's very much so destroyed everyone's ability to like really have critical thinking when it comes down to like things saturated in culture. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things.
Yeah, those are great points. All right, JP, you can go ahead and flip on your camera, and Devin, you can turn yours off, and you can have the floor and just give us your thoughts about it.
So I think that this can be seen mostly on stuff like memes and the short content. You know what I mean? This is like short content that you're getting blasted with. This isn't looking up a YouTube video like how do you fix a car or how do you do this, like the more informative, 10 to 20 to 30-minute YouTube videos. This is like the short content, and they're blasting it out there just so you can see it so many more times, because you can only see a 10-minute video once. But you can see a 5-second video, like they can just keep blasting it at you and blasting it at you.
And essentially, if you're going to look up something like how to fix a car, was your example, obviously you're looking for information. But I feel like people who are consuming this irony poisoning or brain rot content, it's like at least at the end of the day, you do know that you're sitting there just trying to waste some time. It's like you're not trying to learn something. You're just kind of wasting time. So it's like the content is already kind of bad just by any type of informational perspective.
And that's what it's geared towards to begin with, is this is like getting down the rabbit hole and everything, but like they want you consuming that content. They want you on there just scrolling. I do it too. I'm a business owner. I'm a successful guy. I'd like to think I got my shit together. And but I'll sit there, I'll be like, man, I've been scrolling for like an hour or two, bro. Like I gotta go do something. Like I gotta go something, man. Like it just sucks you in, and the content you're consuming is really mostly nothing of worth, especially if you're like mainstream algorithm. Like what most people watch is not anything they're learning from. It's just like little dumb stuff, Jake Paul, like stupid stuff happening. And it's really like meme warfare. And then, like you said, you'll see meme warfare, and you'll see these memes, and they'll just desensitize you to like certain things that should be held in serious regard. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And one thing to just understand for anyone is that the information you put into your head, your mind, you're going to do something with that information, and that's going to eventually result in it's going to result in the behavior. So you act how the information you put into your brain, the quality of it. I'm having a hard time wording that, but your actions are a reflection of the information you put into your head. That's a better way of putting it.
Yeah, you project out what you're ingesting into your mind.
Yes, absolutely.
You're projecting what you're ingesting.
And
so anything you're watching, whatever type of content you're watching, if you're watching brain rot, stupid stuff that's not putting you forward in life, then you need to really be thinking about what you're watching.
That's a good point. So, Prophet, let's go ahead and hear from you. JP, you can turn your camera off.
Yeah, absolutely. Just off of what you guys were saying, when you're dealing with such ironic and irony-poisoned content for such long periods of time, I think what happens is you lose a sense of sincerity within. And what I mean by that is you don't exactly know what you're talking about, and you don't really know if things are the way they are. You kind of just think that way, and they kind of see the world that way. And that relates to the postmodern view that there is no truth and there only is different perspectives.
It's called solipsism.
Exactly. But when the content you are consuming has no criteria for relevance other than what it stimulates in your brain dopamine wise, no criteria for truth, you're not going to be looking for those things in the world. So if people are wondering, it's like, oh, I feel like I can't think, or I'm not smart, or this or that, it is largely the content you're consuming, right? You are what you eat. It's a media diet for a reason. You will become the media that you watch. So if you want to see a significant change, it is removing that irony poisoning and moving towards the type of content where you're searching up 30-minute videos, psychological lectures, different presentations. Moving towards that form of content, I think, could start a bit of healing, honestly.
Those are great points.
Yeah, and I think it's also one of those things too where people undermine just even the music they're listening to and how that's affecting their subconscious, right? People really just need to be more aware in general of what they're consuming, because at the end of the day, these algorithms are being made to addict you, right? And to suck you in. That's why it's like you go into a trance and you suddenly realize, right? You've been doom scrolling, you've gone through 60, 30 or whatever have you TikTok shorts, and you just wasted 30 minutes like nothing, you know? So these things are addictive, and God knows what they're putting in the background, and God knows what's even on the shorts that you're watching. So, you know, just you have
Absolutely.
to just be careful. You know, that's the biggest thing. You have to be very aware of what you're putting into your brain.
All right,
And
guys. So go ahead, Prophet.
music, I think, is one of the most significant things. I'm surprised we haven't brought it up.
We're going to do an
Because
episode on it. 100%.
we should. But because it makes you feel such intense emotions around the lyrics, I think it's inevitable that you will start to want to emulate the autobiography of the author of the lyrics if you enjoy the music. And I even saw this in
Oh,
my
yeah.
best friend as he was getting into drug addiction, you know, things like cocaine. A lot of the music he was listening to was big druggy music, a lot of Mac
Right.
Miller's Faces album, you know, and he even told me stories of times where he was like, dude, I felt like I was literally those lyrics, like living those lyrics. It's crazy. But yeah,
Yeah.
we can move on to the next slide.
Well, here's what we're going to do. We're actually going to do a irony poisoning test. We're going to see if you have irony or pastiche poisoning. So we've got a 3-stage test. And the way this works is we're going to show you a meme. And if you find it funny, the funnier you find these memes, the more likely it is that you probably have some degree of irony or pastiche poisoning. So, this is the first image. This is our first example of a, and as you notice, we all chuckled.
It's kind of like a little chuckle thing. Like you don't even mean to do it. It's like
because it's just stupid. Like,
Yeah.
I've showed this to older adults, and they said, I don't get it. They did not understand this meme. So, did you laugh at this meme? If you did, if you found this funny, you likely have some form of irony or pastiche poisoning. So that was our first diagnostic test 1. Second one, Obama pyramid. This one's pretty funny too. It's funny because
This is the
it's
best
just
one.
absolutely random, and poor
Just the
girl
Darth
is on
Vader
the
mask
floor.
hanging over the bed.
Poor girl knows that Pyramid Obama has usurped her spot, and the dude's just having a great time, and she's not having a good time. She's sleeping on the floor.
Yeah, ain't that something? I wish we had more examples to look at. There's so many good ones.
Oh, we have a couple more later on in here. So, did you laugh at this meme? If you did, you probably have some form of irony poisoning. And the third image, X going to give it to you. An individual named X is going to give something to you. There is a person who has been given the identity of X, who has decided to distribute something of an ambiguous nature to you because of an unknown reason. Sir, I wish to inform you that you have been selected in an unclear process by a black-clothed man in the style of a rapper who has received the given name of X, and as a result of being selected in this process, the man known as X has a plan, which he will soon execute, in which he will decide to distribute something that is of an unknown quantity or nature, but is likely to be dangerous to yourself. Did you laugh at this meme? If you did, if you laughed at all 3 of these memes, you absolutely have irony poisoning. Sorry to admit it to you. You've got irony poisoning.
You have brain rot. You have irony poisoning. You have fucking been successfully brainwashed by your devices. So all you can do is start working on getting better.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So, next slide. We got our 3 symbolic avatar mascots. In my the way that I look at this, you have the ancient Egyptian god Kek, the ancient Egyptian god of darkness and chaos. These are primordial deities. These are the deities that resulted in the creation of the universe. So Kek represented darkness and chaos. The troll face, everybody. If you don't know the troll face, you definitely do not have irony poisoning if you've never seen the troll face, but everyone has. And the most interesting one, Pepe the Frog. And there's this mental association with Kek and Pepe, and that's no coincidence. I mean, I think you'd be a fool to think it is coincidence. But Pepe the Frog, and he's apparently a hate symbol, they said all these years back, which is interesting. But Pepe the Frog, the troll face, and Kek, which embodies both of them in a way, those are our three mascots. Kek, the god of chaos. So the Ogdoad are the male-female pairs of primordial deities, of which Kek and Kalket represent darkness. He particularly represents the primordial darkness that existed before the creation of the world. So primordial darkness is one of 8 deities, the Ogdoad, a group from the cosmogony of Hermopolis, I guess that's how you say it. The Ogdoad symbolizes the chaotic, uninformed state of the universe before creation began. Kek specifically embodies the darkness before light, symbolizing the absence of light, visibility, and knowledge. And in meme culture, Kek has been co-opted into internet meme culture, particularly on platforms like 4chan, where he's associated with chaos and is humorously linked to Pepe the Frog, leading to the creation of the, quote, cult of Kek. This has given Kek a new life as a symbol of internet humor, irony, and sometimes political commentary, though it has also led to controversial associations. So I think I'm going to go ahead and how about I let Prophet go first? And I know it mentioned 4chan. So let's get everybody's kind of thoughts on that. I've never really been on 4chan much, and JP hasn't been on 4chan either. So
Right.
we're kind of blind in this regard. But go ahead, Prophet. I know you had mentioned it. If you want to turn your webcam on, you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's interesting that there is a line of consistency between the original Egyptian god and the language used to associate with Pepe and the imagery, as well as some of the hieroglyphs. So, it points towards memes being able to live and have cross-generational influence on culture, which it's a bit of a hard concept to nail down, but if you think about it, a lot of the memes, I've mentioned this before, come from old TV shows and clips and things that, people thought were funny back in the day reused. So you can think that these memes are just sitting in the back of your head and in your subconscious, just waiting to be manipulated and pulled this way and that way by the algorithms or by the short form content. And when it's drowned in irony poisoning, it's hard for most people, I'd say almost everyone, to actually see the real meaning of these memes and what they're pointing towards. And I don't mean that in any like far right whistleblower Kek way, but just the actual collective unconscious meaning of these memes and how have they influenced and where did this come from? Like it came from 4chan, that's very drenched in extremist culture. So it's very chaotic. It's anonymous, you're not informed of who you're talking to. So that's just a little interesting thing that I wanted to point out.
Devin, why don't you go ahead if you have anything to say on this slide, and then we'll go to the next one, and we'll let JP go first on the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if anybody's been around the internet, they know that Pepe is usually associated with trolling and alternative internet culture, right? Being edgy. And it's very rarely a wholesome thing. My point is, you'll very rarely see some wholesome, innocent person, right, who's also like embracing Pepe. It is usually embodied by people with archetypes that are enveloped in chaos or are drenched in irony and are a part of this meme culture. And that's like a very, interesting aspect of all of this, because if people are familiar with like some of the Twitch logos and stuff, I watched Twitch when I was a younger kid, and it was a trend where people would say praise Kek, and there was even like a weird religious element that was applied to it ironically. And, it's just very interesting because it makes you think, because why would this frog god of either been injected by some sort of agenda, or why would it have bubbled up some sort of way in internet culture again, subconsciously? I would say either situation there is pretty fascinating.
Absolutely. Those are all absolutely great points. The next slide is about Pepe the Frog, and we just have some bullet points. So everyone knows kind of, hopefully, what Pepe the Frog is. It's let's see. It says that it has led to some people believing that Pepe may be an egregor or a tulpa, which we have definitions for those on one of the next slides. A lot of people have noticed the coincidences and the associations between Pepe and Keck, obviously. Everybody kind of puts those together in their head without thinking about it. I kind of view them as one and the same thing. We've got the picture of this statue next. That's very interesting. I don't know how accurate that is. And one interesting facet is that Keck represents the shift from darkness to light. So I read that as, is he a light bringer? Does that represents bringing light?
Where are you getting this information on Pepe the Frog?
So a lot of these bullet points, I got some of them from a book called Dark Star Rising, which is magic in the age of Trump. I'm going to put links to all those in the description. And then this is just some basic history of Pepe that I pulled from Grok.
Where does he originate from? I know he's a meme, but where does this originate from, the frog
right
guy?
Here. It says he is a cartoon amphibian created by artist Matt Fury.
Huh.
Pepe was initially a quote-unquote millennial slacker in his comic strip. And the images started to spread. It says the alt-right, not just the alt-right, I think it was both sides, adopted Pepe as a mascot, and the frog became associated with the idea of redemption and revitalization, the bringer of light, which is what Lucifer means. I'm just, that this is what Keck is about, and that is also what literally translated Lucifer means to bring light. Some people see the online version as an incarnation of the ancient Egyptian frog-headed god Keck. Also can appear with the head of a snake, a cat, or a frog. Here it is. This is what I was looking for. Keck is considered the god of chaos, which is the neither that chaos magicians seek to reach the quote-unquote unconditioned awareness of being. Neville Goddard speaks of as a necessity for one's desires to manifest. This is this double harmony, schizophrenic. It's not right or wrong. It's both at the same time, or neither, which would be the neither is kind of like a negative times a negative, which is a positive.
Right.
It's
essentially and the 3 dots in his eyes. I wonder what the significance of that could even be. You see that?
You know what? I didn't even that didn't even
in either eye.
Me.
You know what I mean? Like it only supposed to have 1 dot.
It's in a triangle too, but
I've never noticed that. I just wasn't looking that close.
It almost, what that jumps out to me, as you guys know, well, Josh knows I'm a big Alien versus Predator fan. It looks like that 3 dots on the Predator.
It does. That's
whenever
true.
He's, using his thing.
That's a really good point. Seriously, that's a very interesting point.
There's always these little significant messages and like hidden messages and stuff like that.
So I'm going to go ahead and explain. It says that some people believe it may be an egregor or a tulpa. And so an egregor, this is from the Encyclopedia of Occultism and Parapsychology, which is one of the most interesting books that I've ever come across. It is an encyclopedia with definitions of things like this. And I will leave all these links in our description. I mean, I just believe in sharing all the information with you. So an egregor, very interesting. An egregor, a folklore term denoting a collective ritual designed to accumulate group magical energy for successful hunting, rainmaking, or planting of crops. Occultists have used the term to denote an astral entity evoked by group energies. Who wants to go first here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's one of those things where if you really start digging on where all this subconscious manipulation resides in, and what a lot of this occultism leads to, it leads to these forms of mass hypnotization and of subconscious manipulation. And if you really keep digging, and I don't want to get too schizophrenic on the podcast, these things have been done to populations of humans since, I mean, we would know since ancient Egypt, right? And probably even further back. So, if people have always been stuck in these caste systems where there's always been a very defined elite, a very defined all-powerful government, and then a caste system of lower plebs who are being hypnotized, by the entertainment and diets of different things that the greater governments are feeding to them. All these things are not particularly new, and that's why it's like, you could find these books that are pretty old that you would assume are from the modern era, but if you really dig into these things, these rituals and these processes of hypnotization have been done on humans for thousands of years, and the only real nuance nowadays is the internet.
That's true. I'm going to go ahead and outline what a tulpa is. We'll get Prophet's thoughts on that one. A tulpa, a Tibetan term for a phantom form generated by mental concentration. In her book, With Mystics and Magicians in Tibet, Alexandra David Neal describes how she created a tulpa of a monk who supposedly became a recognizable member of her party during a journey. Reportedly, in the course of time, this phantom took on an independent life of its own. She claimed it took 6 months of intense concentration to dissolve this phantom. A tulpa may also double as the magician who created it, employed for a protective purpose or for protective purposes by appearing instead of its creator. A tulpa should be distinguished from a tulku, which is either a reincarnation of a saintly individual or the incarnation of a non-human entity such as a god, demon, or fairy. So the way that I read this is it's like a multiple personality. According to my research, a tulpa is kind of this magical, mythological term around a split personality. So Prophet, let's hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and especially in the more Eastern Hindu sphere, these things are taken with absolute seriousness. They aren't taken as some psychological thing. They're speaking as if this is the way the world works. So I'll speak from that perspective as well. It's extremely, extremely interesting. I think you're on the mark with the multi-personality disorder, since it isn't a non-human entity such as a god, demon, or fairy, and it's not a reincarnation of another human. The only thing that comes to mind is a compartmentalized aspect of the person's consciousness who's putting that mental concentration into it. Now, one thing I'd like to leave here is related to a tulpa is the consecration or incarnation of a non-human entity such as a god. And if you want to see someone who claims to be doing that and would be probably the only one to have the manpower to do this project and is pretty open, a guy by the name of Sadhguru in India, Isha Foundation, he is supposedly creating a god named Devi, or consecrating a god named Devi. It's yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff, and I think it shows that there's a whole other side to reality which just hasn't been explored yet by the scientific institutions funded by government grants and corporate grants.
Oh
But
yeah,
I kind of went a little off point there.
no, that's perfect. All of these things, like you said, they know. I am 100. I can tell you for almost certain. The people who have all the money in this world, they are aware of these things, and a lot of them believe in it to a certain degree. I can't speak as to the degree, but if you go into Hollywood, I mean, I believe it was Ariana Grande is openly a Kabbalist. She's openly studying Kabbalism, and so any of these people who are into any type of New Age stuff, they're very aware of these. They just might not know them by these names. So, is there anything anyone wants to add here, or can I move on?
What's your next slide?
It's about Trump and Keck, and it's more from the Dark Star Rising book.
Yeah, let's see it.
All right. So this is the book. It's absolutely fascinating book. And I know Gary Lockman, he's given some interviews. You can search him up on YouTube and find some of his stuff. He's really interesting. So Trump's rise in Keck, and there's this theory, and I believe that there is some truth to it, that Trump used memetics and memes to specifically win the 2016 election. And I would say that that was absolutely the case.
You know,
And that was brilliant strategy, in my opinion.
I'd say he even used irony poisoning by diluting the debates with essentially memes. I don't know how to put them other than
That's
memes.
how he won the primary. That's the only way he won the
Exactly.
primary. Just dumpstering George Bush Jr. and just, oh my God, that was a hilarious performance. It was almost a comedy spectacle, or it
It
was.
was.
It's all
You
about
have
how
a
many
dog-like
times you see
head.
something. You know what I mean? If you see something that many times, it's like, all right, well, this is the main thing that's going on right now, because that's all you see is, like you said, him making that guy look dumb, like over and over and over. You just see him making that guy look dumb over and over and over and over.
Yeah, and if you tell a lie enough, it'll be believed. But repetition, it's repetition, which is the most basic form of mind control. You know, for instance, if I come and I give you I don't know, if I give you a cigarette, I know you don't smoke, but if I give you a cigarette every day at noon and then every day at 6 o'clock, and I do that for a month, well, after that month is over, you're gonna, and I just stop showing up, you're gonna be like, well, I
Where's
thought
my
this is what we're
cigarette?
doing. Yeah, that was a bad example, but that's all I could think of randomly. Right. Let's see. I'll skim through this, and you guys can give your thoughts. Kek, originally a Korean onomatopoeia, which means it's pop or buzz. It sounds like what it is. That's onomatopoeia. So Kek was onomatopoeia for a raspy laugh, which had been used on 4chan as a replacement for lol, laughing out loud. One day, a member of /poll discovered that Kek was also the name of an ancient Egyptian frog god. The similarities between Kek and Pepe were striking enough, as it was. But Kek also has a female alter ego, or nemesis, that takes the form of a snake. This was quickly taken to symbolize Clinton, a universally reviled character within the Pole community. What's more, to our modern eyes, the hieroglyphs supposedly used to write the name Kek in ancient Egyptian even strangely or strongly resemble a man sitting in front of his computer. That I'm not sure. I don't have a lot to substantiate that, but at least on this one specific statue, it is kind of odd. Some of this, incidentally, is simply incorrect. According to an Egyptologist we contacted, Kek, which perhaps fittingly means darkness in ancient Egyptian, is not, in fact, a frog god per se, but rather one of 4 male Egyptian gods who are usually depicted with frogs' heads. Okay, their female counterparts are depicted with serpentine heads. The hieroglyphs on the frog statuette above, which is on the next slide, actually spell Heket, yes, which is the real name of the Egyptian frog goddess, often associated with fertility and procreation. So,
well, it's like, oh no, it's not a frog god. It's a god that's one of 4 gods that's often symbolized by a frog, but it's symbols that exist in our subconscious, and it's symbols, if you read a lot of Jung's work, it's symbols that keep popping up collectively throughout history. So I don't think that's a very good argument, especially knowing that frog god is a description, not a title.
And think about this, like, just thinking in my brain that just popped up, like, I've seen this frog on this throne in other things like anime, like Naruto, the sage, the frogs, like the frog on the throne. Like, you see this and stuff like that, and like, I didn't even, it just looks just like this. This is what he's showing on screen here, folks, is Illuminati deck of cards. So apparently
from the 90s. This is from the 90s, yes.
Illuminati cards from the 90s, apparently, that has been uncovered.
Let me read what the card says. It's interesting. It says, the idols, and the frog idol, it says, these idols are both frightening and silly, and nobody knows why the masters keep them around. You may interfere with a privileged attack on either side. No other players may interfere unless they use other special cards. Interference is an action for each group that interferes, and use of this card is an action for the frog god. The idea that the idols are both frightening and silly almost kind of rings true today, because we are at this, like I said, pastiche poisoning, irony poisoning point, where some of the memes, like, yeah, they make me laugh, but then after I laugh, I'm like, God, I really laughed at something like that. So it's a little bit scary, and it's goofy too. And this was from the 90s. So what's going on with that? That's very suspicious.
And the latter half of the card sounds like they're describing mimetic warfare within the bounds of the game. It says it's just an influence that can influence other plays, and you can't counter it unless you have another special card to. You know what I mean? It sounds directly like mimetic warfare.
Absolutely. Devin, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it also sounds kind of like a religious proposition in a way too, right? I mean, it is operating almost entirely in the subconscious of the mind, and I mean, nowadays, even my profile in some social medias is like Pepe the Frog, right? In some aspects, and I think that it's permeated the subconscious of young people very deeply, and it definitely is noticeable to anybody, and it's just so mainstream in the culture that it has just become a part of us in a way.
Just real quick, I want to refresh everyone on this. That thing you said about the subconscious mind, that is the primary objective / function of a traditional sigil. A sigil it has to have meaning encoded into it. Then you charge it by some event. Maybe you cut your hand or something and you put blood on it. That you'll remember that. It will be important in your mind. And then it's supposed to be forgotten consciously, and it is supposed to go deeply into the subconscious. That is the objective of a sigil / symbol. They're very like a logo. I would argue that a logo is actually a sigil. So,
Right.
And religions, that's what religions do. That's what the cross is, right? That's why there's that's why there's so much symbolism.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing. It's all the same thing.
All right. So
I can't believe this frog thing, dude. I posted something in Discord. Go take a look at that. That little dude sitting on the little frog sitting on the throne. Just look at it. You'll be like, what?
Yeah, I saw that. That's very
Did you see that when I posted it just now?
Yeah, after we get done with these main slides, I will put a screen grab of it up so people can see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So the next slide, long-term effects. This is something we haven't necessarily talked about yet, and this is going to be kind of like the meat of this whole thing, is the long-term effects.
And the bigger picture of it all.
Yes, and so let's see. The first one is difficulty with sincerity. Constant exposure to irony might lead to difficulties in expressing or interpreting sincere emotions or intentions. This can affect personal relationships where genuine communication is crucial, potentially leading to higher rates of social isolation or misunderstanding. Cynicism and apathy. So cynical, a cynical person, George Carlin comes to mind. Someone who's cynical usually is blunt. They're bluntly truthful, usually in a negative way. Apathy means you just don't care. If you're apathetic, you don't give a shit. So over time, the habitual use of irony to navigate complex or serious issues might breed cynicism, where individuals become skeptical or dismissive of any serious discourse. This could result in a general apathy towards societal issues, which I argue has happened, political engagement, or even personal aspirations. 100%, absolutely. Emotional numbing. The desensitization to real issues through humor might lead to emotional numbing, where individuals find it hard to empathize or mobilize around causes that require emotional investment. Absolutely. Let me breeze through the next set, and we'll let everyone kind of talk on this because this is important. A shift in communication norms. There's a potential for a cultural shift where irony, sarcasm, and humor become default modes of communication, potentially eroding the space for sincere dialogue. This could affect how future generations engage in education, workplace interactions, and public discourse. Absolutely, I would say that's starting to happen now too. They've got banned word lists in schools. Riz in Ohio, which I live in Ohio, so I guess if we need to talk about the state we live in, we can't do it because it's a banned word now. So yeah, this is brain rotting the next generation, and it's genuinely scary. Because I have met children before who don't know how to count change, or read an analog clock. Very, very scary. normalization of extremism. This is a very important point, and this is what we're going to get everyone's opinion on after I'm done reading these. Normalization of extremism. If radical ideas are increasingly introduced through humor, there's a risk that extremist views become normalized over time. This might not lead to overt radicalization for everyone, but could shift the Overton window, making once fringe ideas seem more mainstream. I think that is the most dangerous part of this whole thing, because I see that personally in the world today. The next one, meme culture as identity. For Gen Z and especially Gen Alpha, who are growing up with digital culture as a primary social environment, meme culture might define a cultural identity in ways that prioritize irony or humor over traditional values or ideologies. Decreased political engagement. If everything is perceived through a lens of irony, there might be a decrease in genuine political engagement. Young people might feel that politics is just another arena for memes rather than a serious field for change, leading to lower voter turnout or civic participation. And finally, polarization. Humor and memes can exacerbate political polarization by creating echo chambers where like-minded individuals reinforce each other's views through shared ironic content, potentially leading to further division rather than constructive dialogue. Let's have Devin go first here.
No, yeah, absolutely. This is the basic bread and butter, like you said, or the meat of what we're talking about, right? This is what all the programming into the short form content and the addiction of the short form content is basically all leading to. And I think that if you ask yourself why people aren't as friendly nowadays, why strangers don't talk to each other and everyone's staring at their phones, I would say basically all these bullet points start to outline a partial reason for why these types of things are happening, and I think that another really big focal point of this desensitization and just that's happening, something that happens in every single day culture, is the phenomena of people taking a video of something crazy happening rather than helping out or
Wow.
providing some sanity to the situation, right? You have
Exactly.
someone, exactly right. You have people are so quick, like we've said earlier in the conversation, to make memes on the murder of someone. It really is a perfect medium to radicalize people through, because as long as someone is laughing, you can guide their subconscious that much easier, right? So when you blend that together with people being addicted to the short form content, becoming entranced into it, with having all the different layers of irony and all the inside jokes that your group are akin to, right? It is not only very addictive, but it is hypnotic and it is radicalizing you, and all these different types of things are making young people less likely to engage in our political system and political discourse, even though it is completely screwed. I would admit it's completely screwed. But young people in general, even though it is completely screwed, aren't talking about how it's completely screwed, right? It is becoming a thing that's more on the back burner because of how addicted people are to content and how far people are away from real life, and I could keep naming examples through all these different types of things. The normalization of extremism. I mean, I don't even want to start explaining that, because that could be a 3-hour long conversation. But I think that if anybody is on the internet acting in good faith, they could see all these different things, these bullet points getting worse in people's behaviors throughout the years.
Yeah, JP, what do you think?
So that goes back to like the desensitization, and where I see that is like the Drake diss song. You guys know the song I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like all like A minor, he likes A minors. You know what I mean? Like it's just as blasted in your face everywhere if you just take a second to see it. And like what he was saying about people want to record like girls getting beat up or like somebody's on fire or somebody needs help in a car accident. They want to like record it. Like the first thing you think is, oh shit, let me pull my phone out and record this instead of helping somebody. That's where it really like comes down to where you can see the bigger picture of what's happening. Is the bigger picture is people are like dying and people are recording it. That's the bigger picture, because you're so infatuated with that content and that phone and putting it out there.
Absolutely. Prophet, what are your thoughts?
I think that also speaks to how social media has largely engineered people to be selfish and to do things for attention. So when they come into that situation, they aren't looking at it from a moral perspective, or if they are, that's almost kind of shushed and, oh my God, everyone's feeling that way. And then after that, their selfishness takes over and they take out their phone to record a video because, oh my God, people won't believe this, and subconsciously it's, oh, I'll get to show everyone. A lot of people will care, it's like, oh, this horrible thing happened to me. I saw someone get stabbed. Like I took a video, you know, and it's not a good thing. And it shows from looking back that it is largely well, I kind of just lost my train of thought there. Well, yeah, it's gone. I lost
That's
my train
okay.
of
Not a
thought.
That
problem.
happens. That's
Not a
writer's
problem.
block.
Well, normally when we move on to another train of thought, that one will come back. So if it does come back, you can let us know. This is the next few slides are just some random. I don't know. I guess what would you call these montages of images or something?
Yeah.
Let's
Theme
see.
showcase.
I actually think, yeah, I can zoom in. So let's see if I can. Yeah, here we go. So
Just
of
like
course,
the irony, just like we've been talking about, the whole episode's really about this irony. So the bigger picture here is, this is where it all starts, is in little memes.
yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. Oh, it's just funny. Techno King and Orange Jesus. That's a funny
yeah,
thing until that seeps deep enough into the subconscious that people start actually seeing them as this. I mean,
Yeah.
technocrats already call him, you know, the techno president or something.
Right.
yeah. So this is my argument right here is that Elon Musk has so much money. He's got so many people that follow him around. There's no way he did not know that Kek is an ancient Egyptian god of dark. He knew. Like, you cannot convince me he didn't know. It was not a coincidence.
Who's that?
Elon Musk.
What did he do concerning that?
Oh well, did you
He
not
made his
see?
Twitter profile. Yeah.
Yeah.
Techno
So
Huh?
he
Is that
look.
what's going on right now? So it's Elon Musk's Twitter right
It
now.
was temporarily. He's changed it back to Elon Musk, but this was
What a
maybe
guy.
right after the election, I think.
No way.
That was a coin, but still, it was a meme coin. The Keck meme, the Keck News
My
Maximus meme
point
coin.
is,
But still,
he knew it was an
Yeah.
ancient Egyptian god.
Yeah.
You can't convince me that the richest guy in the world doesn't know that because we figured it out. Let's see. This one's one of my favorites. I love trapping demons in microscopic silicon megastructures to do my bidding. Sure hope nothing goes wrong. Cellular devices are scrying mirrors and tools used by demonic entities to influence thought patterns. How's this been hidden under our noses for so long? Is the internet actually powerful occultism magic used to create one large hedonistic antichrist hive mind? Think about how many people's opinions are influenced entirely by social media giants and influencers. Guys, it's a meme, don't get me wrong, but without getting too much into it till we do a show on it, maybe, there's more to that than, in my opinion, there's more to this than it just being a meme. Should be considered at least something
Right.
spiritual.
that one. Show that one in the bottom left, the speak without speaking one.
The bottom left.
Yeah,
Oh,
the speak
yeah, I
without
didn't see
speaking.
that one.
Yeah, that one's really good too.
Okay, I'm glad you brought
Love
that up.
that
Let
meme so
let
much.
let me explain this. The king's pact binds them. That is King Solomon's pact, because King Solomon, in the biblical narrative, was given power over demons and was able to use them. But the pact of King Solomon is outlined in the Testament of Solomon, which is actually a book on demonology. It's called the Testament of Solomon. And the idea is that demonic entities are bound by the constraints that they can't show themselves directly to you. So you can't see these spirits and you can't directly talk to them like we're all talking right now. And so true, create ways to see without seeing and create ways to speak without speaking. All of this is electricity. None of us are near each other physically. We're not actually experiencing the vibrations of each other's voice because they're replicated through our headsets. So there's something to this, and that's just my opinion. You don't gotta believe it. I'm not saying it's true, false. I'm just saying I think there's something to it.
We're not saying any of this is true or false. This is
Nope.
just our
Not at all.
opinions,
Yeah.
and you guys can do the research on your own and learn on your own. You got to be a free thinker.
And I'll
That's
post
what
all of
this
the
is all
links.
about.
I'll post all the links to all of this after the show is done. And you guys, I encourage you to read through it, and yeah, do your own research. I mean, if you guys come here to watch us for an absolute answer, you're in the wrong place. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, but you are. We don't have absolute answers, and anyone who does claim to have an absolute answer is probably lying to you.
Yeah, they're lying. They're trying to sell you something.
Absolutely.
If they say they know what the answer is, they're trying to sell you something for sure.
Yeah. So.
All right, go to the next slide.
Yeah, a lot of this.
We're at an hour now. We're at an hour and 3 minutes. We're doing great.
Okay, we're almost over. This is almost done. The next slide. Let's see. There's a few more of them.
I didn't know that about the frog. I had no idea about the frog until you just brought it to my attention.
Yeah, see, here's all the Pepe Keck memes.
I want to know the backstory behind the troll face because I see that a lot in the like bodybuilder community, like using the troll face.
There's a dictionary online where it's like a catalog of all the memes.
Yeah, ain't that
yeah. So long story short, without going through all of this information, there's a lot of strange connections, especially with Trump and Kabbalism and mystery schools. It would take forever for us to outline all of that information. But really, here's my recommendation. If you guys want to research this yourself, I'm actually going to post a PDF link to the Dark Star Rising, the magic in the age of Trump, and that would be a great place to start if you're interested in that aspect of it. So let me just go ahead and head over to this next slide because this is a graphic that's kind of interesting regarding irony. So these are two random graphs that I just found on the internet. Structurally subversive versus narratologically subversive. So who wants to start us off here? I'll let somebody else start us off. Just give us your thoughts on what's going on here.
You want to go ahead, Prophet? I kind of don't.
I don't know what's going on right here, right this second, so I can't speak on this part.
All right, I'll start. Perception, how the recipient perceives the message versus meaning, what the author meant in the message. So if the meaning was sincere and the perception was sincere, both the recipient and the author believed the message to be true. If the meaning was ironic and it was perceived as ironic, neither the recipient or the author believes the message to be true. And if it was an undecided meaning and an indistinguishable perception, that's called meta-irony. And meta-irony is on this whole right side here. Meta-irony. The recipient does not know whether the author meant it or not, but the author did mean it in this case. They did not mean it in this case. And neither of them know if they meant it or not. So it's just a perception versus meaning. So we have post-irony, which is when you have a sincere meaning but an ironic perception. The recipient believes the message to be untrue, but the author actually meant it. So I'm telling the truth, but you don't know I'm telling the truth.
Yeah.
You think you just think I'm being ironic.
Yeah, or you think that they're joking. Like they say something so outlandish, you're like, that guy's joking. He doesn't really, eat fingernails for breakfast, but he really does. Or anything. Like that's exactly what it is. They say something so crazy you can't believe it. Like that's not true.
And could someone who's constantly consuming short form content even detect the differences? You know what I mean? A lot of this happens on a subconscious level. Even if they know the subconscious activity is happening, they can see themselves understanding it. They're not consciously seeing how am I understanding it, trying to actually get to the bottom of it. They kind of just roll with it.
Well, just like it gets back to the thing, like anything's true if you've seen it enough times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or
he's telling the truth. I've seen it 100 times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's exactly what it gets back to.
I like this one on the left because it tells you, so if there's no layers of irony, which is a pre-ironic meme, just old school memes, like 2009 memes, that's a pre-ironic meme. The first layer of irony would be that it's narratologically subversive, but not structurally subversive. So it doesn't act like a meme, but it does look like a meme. And so that's just irony. That's the definition of irony. So the second layer would be a meta-ironic meme. It doesn't act like a meme, and it doesn't look like a meme. Subversion of ironic memes, structurally, or structure mainstay of humor. And then there's post-ironic memes. It acts like a meme, but it doesn't look like a meme. I was actually very kind of interested to see these. These actually outline this whole process very structured. Devin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it really just goes back to what I was saying before. These are all of the different expressions of the insane meme formats that we're getting today. Whether we're talking about the E meme where it's Lord Farquaad with the leather E. That's meta ironic, just because there's actually no meaning to pinpoint to it, and that's the reason why it's funny. And everyone's asking why E, why Lord Farquaad. It's just because it doesn't make any sense, and that just really just keeps illustrating just the collective brain rot of the average person. The fact that we even have to define these terms and put meanings to all these different forms of irony is just it's insane to me.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane. The next slide is more memes. I mean, these are perfectly post-ironic memes. The unironic era, the ironic era, and now the post-ironic era. And honestly, we're going to do a episode. I don't know how soon we'll do it, but we will do it soon, probably within the next 5 to 10 episodes, on this psychology of Wojaks, because those are fascinating to me. They're like little mannequins or little dolls, and people just dress them up, and they've kind of transcend memes to it. I don't know. It's very fascinating to me. I buried myself under too many layers of irony, and now I can no longer remember who I really am. And that's what that depersonalization's about. You've got the I guess void doomer there. It's got black darkness in his eyes.
Well, it's like all of us
That's
can
brain
feel
rot.
what that meme means.
That's what brain rot is. That's when you've been scrolling for 2 hours and your ass stinks and you need to go to the shower.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Like, fuck. What is wrong with these kids nowadays? You have to fight it. That's what we're doing. We're speaking out against it. And I know it's a lot of information to take in for a lot of people, and it's not meant for you to take all of it in, but take the key points out of it, which is this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to watch what you're consuming, and you got to understand what's happening.
We literally just want to put and another episode teased a future episode here. The first step to the process for pursuing or acquiring truth is first to acquire a grammatical set. So what we're doing here is we're giving you these words: post-irony, irony poisoning, pastiche. We're putting them out there so that you can hear these words, and we strongly encourage you to, if you don't know any of these words, you just go look them up. That's the first step to being a smart person and being grounded in the truth, is just look words up that you don't know. Right. And so now you know that pastiche and irony poisoning are something. So now go look it up and figure out more for yourself. That's all we're doing here. We're not telling you this is absolutely true. We're just talking about it and letting you hear our thoughts. And partly because when we all talk about it together, it helps us learn from ourselves and from each other. So that's what this show is about. And we'll state that quite often so that everybody understands that clearly. This is just a show for us to talk and explore ideas.
Mm-hmm. And also, it can be as simple and easy as whenever you see these things in your life, say the word to yourself or say, "Oh, that's pastiche," in your own head.
Mm-hmm.
And that will drive it into your subconscious,
Absolutely.
These things aren't just meant to be read and, left. There's some sort of integration that you have to do to start seeing these things in your life.
That's absolutely true. So, as I said, I'm actually going to put this up that JP had sent. I'm going to let you guys see what he had sent. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and then scroll back to what you was talking about, where you can see the frog that we already saw.
Okay. Let's see if I can
Scroll back to the
change.
frog, and we're gonna compare and contrast these two frogs and these two sigils and this symbolism, and just see, because it's just something that I pulled out of the back of my mind. Like, hey, I saw a frog that looks like that.
Yeah, let me see. Can I zoom in? There it is. Yeah, so I don't know what I don't.
See, you have to Google it. Just Google that name right there, and you'll see an image of him sitting on the throne.
Gamma Maru.
So some interesting symbolism. He's the oldest toad. He's known as a sage, and he lives on a mountain.
That one. You see him sitting on the throne right there, right in the middle?
Yeah. Wow.
There he
Okay.
is.
All right. Yeah, you're right. So here, let's see. Let me.
And he's got something around his neck. You know, obviously it all means something.
Yeah,
in
they
Japanese.
definitely expound, or I don't know if it's done on purpose or if it's more of a Jungian thing where these things will unconsciously present themselves in art, but these symbols are
right
described
there.
in
It does look
stories
exactly
and
the
art.
same.
I mean, you're telling me that is not, like, even if it was by accident. What time? I need to look up. Somebody look up, when did Naruto come out? If these came out in the 90s, when did Naruto come out?
Okay, one thing I want to do. Let's try to do an episode on this in the future, and we'll bring you back to talk about this, because you have told me a lot of these occult concepts pop up in animes.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, but I'm very unfamiliar with them.
Yeah, I can
Japanese
also give a
anime.
good few
It came out in
examples.
1999, so the timing would be right. Yeah, but guys, if you want, we can go ahead and actually turn our cameras back on, let everyone see our faces. That was the end of the presentation, and I'm actually going to make that available for everybody, and the full report, because the report's actually got some more information that I dug up, and we just didn't have time to go through all of that report, so I turned it into a slideshow. Let's see, who's got any thoughts? Let's just kind of get everyone's final thoughts, and let's wrap up, because we're almost an hour and a half.
Real quick, Gamaru was introduced to Naruto in June 3rd, 2004.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think just closing thoughts on my end, just, make sure what you're putting in your brain is of value, and you're not just sitting and doom scrolling and rotting your brain for hours, because there is going to be long-term psychological effects, and there's a reason why people's attention spans are getting akin to goldfishes, right? I mean, this is becoming a wide sweeping phenomenon across culture, and to take it lightly is to really downplay like the seriousness of this technology addiction that we're facing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, I feel like only people our age are starting to realize this, having gone through it, because it's a new experience. I mean, our parents have never they have never had this technology. Nobody's ever had this technology until very recently. And so we're the first generation. And oddly enough, I always think back, and we're seeing memes about it now. I've started to see these memes. Every one of our grandparents and our parents, they all had this bad inherent gut feeling that there's something bad about this. But obviously they could have. I don't blame them, because there's
Video
no way
games
they could
too.
have known. Yeah.
Video games too.
Listen,
Video
I
games
played
and even
video
TV.
games.
The TV's gonna hurt your eyes.
I
Sit
played
too close
video
to that
games.
thing. It's like they
and
knew it was wrong.
Unfortunately, having been a big gamer when I was young, I do agree that violent video games are detrimental. I do. Unfortunately, I can't lie and say that's not true, because well, look at Call of Duty. The military had consulted with these game developers to help people join the military from their games, and it turns people into desensitized people, because if you've been playing Call of Duty your whole life, it just doesn't have the same ring to it. Like, I'll talk to my grandparents about these things, and like they'll still show signs of discomfort talking about somebody got shot. Wow, that's horrible.
Or
To me,
even
it's
like
just a
the
joke.
older generation, like my mom and my grandma, they're like, I can't stand to watch boxing. I can't stand to see somebody get beat up. And now it's like, you scroll too far down on Twitter or Facebook, you might see somebody get decapitated.
Yep.
It's just like, we've all seen that video. We've all seen stuff like that. And it's like, to them, like, fighting is very scary. Like, oh my God, they're hitting each other. Why are you hurting each other for?
Those are all good points.
That's how my grandma is.
Well, any last thoughts from any of you guys, or are we good to wrap it up? I
Yeah,
think
I would
it's been a great
say
show.
let's just wrap it up. My last thought is just to second what Devin said, and to say if you put quality media into your head, you will start to think like the media you consume,
Yeah.
and if you put enough of it, then you will start to change psychologically.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think in closing, the only thing you can do to fix this type of stuff is to try to fix your algorithm. So instead of watching like just doom scroll, just like funny, stupid content, you need to be looking up like, I don't know, what do you want to be? A business owner. Look up business owner content. I look up, hardscaping content, lawn care stuff, investments, stuff that you can actually learn from. And instead of scrolling and you're seeing all these big butts and stuff and booty shaking girls and doom scrolling, you'll start seeing like, oh, maybe you should invest this way, or here's how you start a lawn care business, and you'll start seeing stuff that you need to be seeing when you're scrolling. So
Here's the
just
deal.
try to fix your algorithm if you can.
That's a good point, because while we're sitting here talking about the detriments of these memes and things, as a matter of fact, let me end it on a good note. Everything that I've learned, programming, how to set this podcast up, how to make the graphics that we use for the podcast, all of these books that I've found and read that have allowed me to put these presentations and subjects together. Everything I know, I've learned it from the internet, and it was just because I had a little bit of curiosity, and it was something I was passionate to learn. I find it very interesting, and all the information's out there. And I've actually offer all of my stuff that I find, I upload it and share it for free. That's my whole thing. I don't believe in charging for information. So bio.link/officialurban, that'll be in the description. And I'll update this shortly, and I'll put all the sources and link to this presentation for you guys. And you guys are free to use it however you wish. But guys, we truly appreciate it. This was a great show. And,
Yeah, thanks for coming on, JP.
You're welcome,
guys.
guys. This is not my expertise. I'm more of a business owner, entrepreneur type of content, but I can see the stuff that Josh talks about, and me and him talk about it quite often. So I was like, I can get in here and definitely throw my weight around a little bit from
As
the experiences I've taken in through my life.
as a matter of fact, I'm glad that you brought that connection between the anime up, because I think I would really like to have you back to talk about that in the future whenever we get to that, because
And
there is a
more.
lot of
And
there's a
more.
lot of occult themes and fundamental important topics that are encoded into that. And
Yeah.
I would like to explore that further, because I'm not nothing against people who like it, but it's just not my thing. I've never really been interested in it, so I'm
Right.
kind of in the dark there. But guys, we will be back probably Monday. That will be the next show, and we don't know what it'll be about, so we'll surprise you. It'll be something cool for sure. And
Awesome.
with that, guys, we're glad to have you all here, and that's it.
See you guys later.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good one.
See ya.